Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have a accidental community cast for you guys today that was submitted by the Sergeant Lizik, and he's playing against the Lieutenant Colonel by the name of Black Prigozhin, who also occasionally goes by the name T90U. And this fellow, so the day that this game was played, Prigozhin and I had already played 2 matches together. He was previously Colonel, I revoked that, and I'm phrasing it that way because this guy is a cheeser. He has gotten to a very high rank, despite having, I would argue, not very good skills or understanding of the game, because he cheeses. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, particularly with this replay, where it very nearly succeeds, how to recognize the signs and what to do about it. And the first one we have already, and that's Endless M163 CS. Now, this unit is designed to take apart anything light in your opener, recon helos, things like that, like the Siphon, and even infantry, other things like that, because on this map in particular, people don't tend to send heavy tanks into Foxtrot early. They tend to do exactly what Lizik is doing and going into the 2 with a decent investment. I actually like Lizik's investment here. It would normally be, I think, a very good thing. Zelda's, Spikes, Moglon, it's even a little bit heavy, I'd say, normally, because we do have Shiatet 13 back here, but what we'll see is that there's just too many M163s, so, and M1A1 Abrams behind it, 2 of them. So this is going to get through, and the Chaparral, this is what you'd call basically almost a mech rush. Yeah, it's a lot, and I don't know. So if you see this, what I'd recommend is immediately take your opener in Delta and go into Charlie. And the reason is, as long as you have something like the Machbet to support you with it, and I'd even buy a second one for here as well, because you need that sort of anti-air to push against cheesers like this. You take Charlie, and then when you survive this, you've basically already won the game, right? So that's what you do on the right. Now the question is, how do you survive this? Right, there's double M1A1 Abrams, this looks really scary, there's a bunch of recon 20-point vehicles, there's a bunch of stuff here. What do you actually do to fix it? And the answer is not the Magok 7 Sea Gimmel. It actually is more like the Hammers, which are probably carrying Shiatet. And what you want to do is you want to get some infantry right here, and you want to get some infantry right here. And anything armor, anything infantry that comes in here will just get absolutely destroyed. The other thing that you should do, the second you see an opener like this, so before the Gimmel, before the Hammer, you buy anti-air. So the Gimmel right here is 100 points. It is not necessarily, so 17 front, 17 AP. Well, we can't see the stats on the M1A1. I think the M1A1 wins, and there's 2 of them. So this Gimmel on its own is not going to be enough here. But what would be very nice, there are, 2 Machbets in your base. You can nearly get that, not quite, but you could certainly get one. You could get some infantry besides, and you just have the infantry go up. You have the Machbet sit back here, because odds are if someone's doing this to you, planes and or helicopters will follow. Particularly because we haven't really seen all of his points yet, and it's quite possible that they're going over into Charlie, I understand that. It's just, at this point, it's an odds game, and it's rather unlikely. So, these Shiatet, they're getting shot. If they had unloaded here, they would not be. And then we have one... Jeez, this is just so rude. So what he's doing is, the Phantom 2 with Napalm, he's attempting to block off reinforcements. That's why it's going across this road. And the timing is such that he's trying to use it to prevent basically anything coming in from here, stopping this helo rush. Now if you look, we have one AH-1J, we have I think an AH-1G, no, AH-1E, sorry, and 2 Cobras. And he does kill the Axolite Pikud. So this Machbet buy is nice, but it should already have been out here. The second you see this cheese, already get it out here. And if we take a look, I mean, this column is mostly not getting through. Like, there's really not much left. It's a single M1A1 Abrams. The Shiatet and the side here can handle it just fine. The Spikes are even doing the job for it, so the M1A1... Oh, that's unlucky. Yeah, most times it won't get through, right? That didn't really require that much extra investment. What is a problem is the fact that the CV is dead. If there wasn't a second CV by here already, this would be game over, right? So don't let that happen to you. Instead of the Gimmel, that did in fact get killed by the M1A1, get your base defense and get it up early, because an ounce of preparation is worth any sort of response that you have to do later on. Because the fact that these are alive, I mean, they're going to chew through these Rovite, they're going to chew through maybe even the Shiatet. The Cobras, of course, do have Vulcans, and frag launchers on the Recon Cobra as well. So this is really ugly. It's a lot of value, and the way that you fight the Hilo Rusher and Cheezer long term is you deny them that value, because these pieces are very expensive. 55 for the Cobra, well, for the Recon Cobra, 60 for the H1E, and I believe 80 for the H1F. That's... yeah, okay, I think the 1F died. So, I mean, the mock bet here is doing its job. It's just a little bit too late, right? So, again, I cannot stress this enough. If I say it 50 times in this video, it's not enough. Protect your base. And the second you see cheese, protect your base even more, because this is incredibly risky. It's a nice response. That CV does need to move over to golf, but I mean, this is just it is a gamble, and it's a gamble you don't want to give your opponent the time to do, because he's just calling in more cheese. There's two AH1E Cobras going over this way, there's a DAP, there's a Super Cobra, there's nothing on the ground. This is just not even, I'd argue this is pretty close to not even playing the game. If you're gonna play like this, I don't understand. It's just, I don't know. I mean, and the Super Cobra went down to a Zelda. The Zelda killed it. That's so embarrassing. That should never, ever, 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 ever happen. But it is, because this guy doesn't know how to play the game. He just knows how to cheese it. So, flipping back to Red's perspective. We don't see all the helicopters. We don't see all the planes. This guy is coming out to do the napalm run on this section, because your opponent knows as soon as you're moving, as soon as Delta's decapped, that's what's going on, right? So it's always going to be risky coming back from Delta to Golf. And you're even being chased by Double Cobra here, right? So you see that? You need to micro this mock bet right now out of this and out to the left, because what will happen is the smoke will actually protect you a little bit. He's going chasing, and going chasing is getting the mock bet killed. So don't go into the napalm, get out of the napalm, turn that gun on only when these Cobras get close enough, because the Stinger is actually really high accuracy. 70% accuracy on the Stinger is more than good enough. You don't need necessarily anything more than that, right? So what you do need is for these guys not to still be alive. So if you're in this situation, we're going to take a snapshot right here, and I think Lijek responds really well to it. Your first buy needs to be a CV, because what will happen, and there it is, the X-Ray Pakud, is even if this dies, and second thing, this needs to be in town, by the way, protect it from rocket pods like those. The second that is bought, even if you lose your CV, it'll still come in, right? Every buy that you do will. The other thing I disagree with is the Barak 2 buy, because if we look at this, it's 155 points, it's incredibly expensive, and an answer here that would have worked for these Cobras is something like a Pivads, you turn the gun off, or a Chaparral, which we do already know that he has in the deck as well. There was one, or no, sorry, Chaparrals for blue, goodness gracious. I think there was non-radar A that we already saw. The Shinov 2 is an interesting pick, because this thing is meant for anti-plane, not for anti-helo, and I think I could venture to say helicopters are currently the problem. So, it's just a couple things, and it's really hard to think when this is going on, so I understand. It's really, really hard to think when this is all going on, but just keep it cool, keep it slow, be purposeful, and that helps a lot. So the Shinov will get the kills here, but it's much less effective at doing so than something like the Pivads, and it's more expensive. So these actually, the ground-to-air missiles that are meant for planes are slower as well. And then you have problems like this, right? So what's happening here, this Thunderbolt's coming in for the X-Ray Pakud, and it's being spotted by the Cobra. Cobra should already be dead. Cobra should be dead from this mock bet if it was moved to the left, and if there was a second mock bet here, it very well may be dead. Or if there was just more stuff, right? Because autocannons do the trick as well. There aren't all that many in Israel, so that is understandable. If you're playing something like Entente and can buy BVPs, but that's a bit of a special case. And this Thunderbolt could very well end the game. Keep in mind, these guys have Fire and Forget Mavericks, right? So if this Cobra is still alive... Well, actually, no. What am I talking about? This is Israel. And it might be... Is this Israel Mech? No, that's low veterancy. Okay, yeah, it's Israel Mech. That explains it. So no Tsefa-E. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Tsefa-E's solve this problem as well. It's actually one of the few benefits of the unspec. Nice stun on the Thunderbolt. This is a little dicey. Could well have been the end of the game. The fact that it wasn't... Well, I mean, I'm glad, because Helo Rushers, it's just... It's not fun. But, At this point, I think the biggest thing I'd say is lessons to take away from this. 1, Hilo Rushers are eminently beatable every single time. 2, they're way more easily beatable if you have a bit of preparation. And 3, get that preparation as soon as something seems not right. So we see this giant mech column coming down. Something seems not right. This is not how people usually play, because doing this, if it loses, you lose the entire game. It's an all-in opener, and all-in openers tend to come with cheese attached, like that later Hilo Rush around the side. And even if you're seeing this and you think to yourself, this doesn't feel right, and you just go, okay, let me buy base defense, that's a good instinct. So, I mean, a mock bet is 60 points. You don't want to be spending on that necessarily early on and have it not be in your base, but I mean, one of these things stops almost all the helicopters that were there earlier, and from there, the response that happened would have been enough. If that was enough, then the second CV never dies. The second CV never dies, and we're 10 minutes in with Lizek having a +2, right? 30 points a minute, 300 points. This is a game that's already nearly over. So a couple of changes, and this becomes a toothless push from Prigozhin over there, the Lieutenant Colonel. So I think that's really my main takeaways, that we're not really going to have all that much more to see, because, I mean, he just gets pushed out. We've seen a Thunderbolt die, we've seen an Aardvark die, we've seen so many helicopters die. Those were his reinforcements. He's not really buying anything on the ground. And the last thing I'll say, I guess, to Lizek, if you're watching this, I hope it wasn't too hard on you with the buys here. It's just that with Hilo Rushes, there's a set way to respond, I think, that will lock it down and lock down the game. And there's a set way to respond where if you respond that way, you're rolling the dice. And the Thunderbolt very nearly made this a loss. I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad that you won this. I hope it was some nice ELO, or ELO I guess, from this Lieutenant Colonel. And just, when something seems off, buy a mock bet. Set it in your base, go on your way. And if you're playing something else where you don't have something like the mock bet, buy autocannons, set them in your base. A couple of autocannons will do a lot better than you think. Shock infantry at close range as well will take down anything but armored hinds with much more speed than you might think. And from there, best of luck with ranked. I hope to see you around. Thank you for letting me talk about this replay. I think that's I think it's something that spreads. I was thinking about this earlier. Whenever there are new players, it seems like the amount of Hilo Rushes goes down. And the only thing I can think of is that people who rely on them, like this guy, don't do them when they see lower ranks all the time because they think they can win. And then, well, it turns out they're wrong because they're actually trash at the game. And then they go back to Hilo Rushing afterward. And when people get Hilo Rush, they tend to do a Hilo Rush as well because they figure, if everyone's playing this way, why shouldn't I? Because it is just a way of, well, sometimes you just win. So don't Hilo Rush with them. If you're watching this, don't become part of the problem. I think it makes it worse for everybody. And this is a game that's, what, nearly 9 years old? And it still has an incredibly strong and incredibly passionate community spread out among a number of discords. I mean, there's Blitzwar community, there's Boot Camp, there's my own Discord, there's a couple others as well that are really, really good. There's still active mods that are being made by dedicated teams. Blitzwar community mod, Annihilation mod, Redder Dragon from Lateralis and his group there. This is a game that a lot of people are passionate about. I'm passionate about, Lizek is passionate about, and people who do this sort of Hilo Rush thing, they'll drive people away. So if you see this, counter it, and counter it so hard that it ends up costing them more than they ever gain from it. And then maybe one day they'll stop. Or, quite frankly, if they stop playing and we just cut out the cheesers from the community, that's fine with me as well. So the harder you punish this sort of thing, the more annoyed you'll make them, instead of making ourselves annoyed from this as well. And I think that'll lead to a healthier community and one that has a lot of longevity, which I think we all want that right now. So that's all I've got to say about this. This guy can kiss my ass. And if you also hate Hilo cheesers and people who refuse to play the game in a way that has any remote semblance of being how it's supposed to go, or anything that relies on skill, then just leave a like, share, subscribe. Oh man, if I'm asking for off the back of Hilo Rushers, it's a bad day. And I hope your guys' day is going better than mine is when I'm making this video. Till next time.